بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope you're all doing well. In the previous two lectures, we had studied Suratul Humaza, which is the 104th surah of the Holy Quran, and it's a Makki surah. And we had discussed up till ayat number 3 of the surah. Today, inshallah, we will begin from ayat 4. Let's do the duas first. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi zidni ilma. O my Lord, increase me in knowledge. Allahumma faqihni fid deen. O Allah, grant me the understanding of deen. Allahumma arinal haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arinal batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. O Allah, show us the truth as the truth and grant us the ability to follow it, and show us the falsehood as the falsehood and grant us the ability to avoid it. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. So like I said, we had discussed in the previous two lectures until ayat number 3 of Surah Humaza. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wailul likulli humazatil lumazah. Woe to every scorner, fault finder. Alladhi jama'a malan wa addadah. Who collects wealth and continuously counts it. Yahsabu anna malahu akhladah. He thinks that his wealth will make him immortal. So we had discussed up till here, and I had given you references from different verses of the Holy Quran as to the personality that develops when a person's goal of life is merely to acquire wealth, and their ultimate purpose in life is the acquisition of more and more assets, and this makes the person feel secure. And because such a person does not have a higher noble purpose or goal in life, then he becomes arrogant, he looks down upon others, he's mocking, he's fault finding in others. Here I would like to clarify that when the Quran instructs us about our worldly resources, it does not forbid us from utilizing those resources, nor does it criticize earning wealth through fair means, because it has emphasized sharing one's wealth with the less privileged greatly. In fact, sharing your wealth with the less privileged or the needy is one of the most emphasized upon traits of a believer, and it's one of those traits which is greatly liked by Allah. It has been repeatedly emphasized to share your wealth with others, and it is one of the biggest virtues of a believer. And the Holy Quran only condemns those worshippers of wealth who collect wealth merely for themselves and they do not share it with others. And since the acquisition of wealth is the only purpose of their lives, it's entirely possible, it's very possible that they will disregard moral boundaries. And when we reflect on such verses of the Holy Quran, it becomes clear that the elite of the Meccan society of the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, exhibited all these vices. Such vices were very much present in that society. And also, another point here I would like to talk about is that in the tafasir, in the interpretation of these ayat, we find a historical background which is called the Shan-e-Nuzul, which names a certain individual in Makkah who indulged in this behavior. In certain places, he has been identified as Akhnas bin Shariq, and in others, Walid bin Mughira. And a third name, Umayyah bin Khalaf, has also been mentioned. As we all know that there are certain verses of the Holy Quran which have a specific background, a specific historical background, and that is called its Shan-e-Nuzul, the historical background of the revelation. That some event took place, and to answer the questions which arise as a result of that event, Allah Ta'ala reveals certain verses, giving instructions to the believers. So some scholars, we notice, have went greatly towards interpreting all the ayat of the Quran in the light of some Shan-e-Nuzul. They go about looking for the background, the historical background, whereas the research scholars are not in favor of this approach. That is why Shah Waliullah has criticized this approach in his book Al-Fawzul Kabir. There is a general principle in the books of the principles of tafsir, the usul-e-tafsir, that we will consider the generality of the words used rather than the specific incident which caused it, except if the ayat points clearly towards someone or some incident. In that case, the ayat will become specific. So, because if you see, what happens is that if every ayat is looked at on the basis of some historical background, then the lesson that has to be learned from that, you see, it's a general lesson that is basically for everyone, for all times. So that can be neglected because you are confining that ayat to a specific person or a specific incident. So whilst discussing the Shan-e-Nuzul of these ayat, the historical background of these verses, which mentions the names of certain individuals, Imam Razi writes, the scholars of tafsir have differed in their opinion that the warning here is general for all those who possess these traits, or the warning here is specific for certain individuals. And research scholars are of the opinion that this is a general warning for any individual who might have these vices. So in the following ayat, we notice that Allah is addressing such a character who is a worshipper of wealth and is deluded into thinking that his wealth will preserve him eternally. Ayat 4. Kalla layumbadanna fil hutamah. Nay, he will surely be thrown into the crushing torment. The word kalla is used in the Quran to reject the belief or assumption of the addressee. Here the individual mentioned in the previous ayat, who has a very strong reliance on his wealth and he believes that his wealth will preserve him eternally, is being told categorically that it is not at all as he believes. It is far from the truth. The root word of the word yumbadanna is nun ba dal, which means to throw. And here lam-e-ta'keed, the lam before the yumbadanna, la yumbadanna, and the noon mushaddad. You notice that the yumbadanna, it ends with the noon with the shad on it. Both of these are used for stress. They're both stressors, and this makes the statement categorical and more impactful. meaning he will definitely, surely be thrown into the crushing torment. There is no doubt about it. The root word of hotama is ha ta mim, and literally it means to break or crush. This could be one of the punishments of hell, or it could be a name given to hell. Vama adaraka mal hotama. And what can make you know what is the crushing torment? The style used here, where the listener is questioned in this manner, is to alert the listener as to the gravity and the danger of the situation, and to warn the listener as to the immense importance of what is being mentioned. Narullahil muqadah. It is the fire of Allah, eternally fueled. Allati tattali'u ala al-af'idah, which will rise over the hearts. Here, Allah is mentioning the hellfire leaping up to the hearts of the sinners. The scholars of tafsir have presented two interpretations of this. Firstly, they say that the heart is the most sensitive organ of the human being, feeling the most pain. So this is referring to the physical heart. And secondly, the heart is the center of the intentions, beliefs, concepts, feelings, whether good or evil. So here, the reference is to the spiritual heart, meaning the ability to distinguish between right and wrong, the ability to understand and analyze and reach conclusions and make decisions that we as human beings are gifted with. The body parts then just fulfill the decisions of the heart. Modern science, however, identifies the brain performing all these functions, and this raises questions in one's mind as to why Allah has mentioned the heart instead of the brain. We observe that the Quran has used different terms to refer to this ability. The terms used are qalb, fuad, aql. So here, qalb, fuad do not refer to the physical heart. Rather, they refer to man's ability to perceive and understand. So today we conclude our lesson here, and inshallah in the next lesson we will discuss this a little further and conclude the surah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.